Jane, happy Monday. We made it through the weekend. What a thing to say, right? We made it through the weekend. I had an action-packed weekend, um, but I did get some time to create, and I finished that little clothes hanger holder, if you guys saw that, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook. So I whipped that up. I am waiting for my fabulous link here for my text club people. And here's the number, 860-385-6369. If you want to join, and then you'll get notified when I go live, if I have a promo, products are back in stock, that kind of thing. But I promise I won't clog up your phone with a bunch of texts. And I won't text you too late. Because I'm usually in bed by 9, as my husband will attest to. I am a morning person. Okay, so that's gone. And if you would kindly scatter about, some people say sprinkle, but I would appreciate if you would scatter about my videos and things to people who you think would like them. You know, if they're into this kind of thing, painting, furniture painting, that kind of stuff, laughing. Feel free to do that and absolutely join my text club, 860-385-6369. I am going to close my computer. Now, I've had questions and stuff, and I just want to go over them before we finish and we finally cut out the beautiful, I call her Marie Antoinette transfer. All right, so I made myself notes so I can get everybody in here. For the project planner, for these principles, and I'm so flattered that you guys, a lot of you use them. I know Tammy of Flippin' Furniture printed 20 of them for all her projects, and I use them for every single project, from the smallest to the largest, and I go through. I do put my title, you know, what it is, and then I have them in a file, a little kind of accordion file that I keep them in. But to get these, all you have to do is go to either chalkmercantile.com or surfaceanthology.com, and the big banner, right? It has the project planner, printable, get yourself organized. You just put your email in there, and then I will deliver the PDF right to your inbox. And I love these. I did try doing 2 of these per page, but I have such crazy, hey, Clever Cook Store, how are you? I think you're on YouTube watching me, right? I'm starting to pick up on the colors, the little notifications. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I have such big writing and everything that I just have one page per one full page from my printer, and that's what I use. So again, go to chalkmercantile.com or surfaceanthology.com, put in your email, and you will get the PDF for this, and you could print them and keep track of all your projects. So that's one thing. I gave you the text number. The other thing was, I had someone asking about, and I just have 2 of these kits left, the paint inlay kit. So if you go to chalkmercantile.com and you click on workshops, it's in there. It's in, I think it's under virtual workshop, and I've also included the link for this on the top of the descriptions for the paint inlay. For this, you'll see a video for this. And what it is a kit where you get a piece of the paint inlay, 3 of these little boards, and pre-made rosettes molds. So you can make your own little kit and learn how to use the paint inlays, because I get a lot of questions about those. And if you go to YouTube, where I think Clever Cook Store is, you'll see a whole bunch of tutorials for the paint inlays. The other thing is my membership is open. The Surface Anthology Paint, Decorative Painting, Furniture Painting membership is open. It's $23 a month. You get 20% off everything in my store. You get one workshop per month. You get a live paint technique, which is separate from the workshop that month. Q&A, all kinds of good stuff. And to join, again, it's just $23 a month. Go to surfaceanthology.com and you'll see membership and you can join. And let me tell you, I go deep into paint techniques and I am reintroducing it. I was kind of overwhelming people. So when you first join, you're going to see over 20 workshops. Don't go in and try to do them all. It's a lot of information. Pick one and work through it. And, you'll also be part of our private Facebook group, so you could go in and ask questions. But I don't want you to get overwhelmed. So I'm not going to be as overwhelming as I was with all the information that I carry around in my head, because I want you guys to actually do the techniques that I teach you in there. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm excited about it. I have a new platform where I keep all of the workshops. It's on Podia, and it's much easier for me to navigate and for you guys to go in and do that. So I'm excited. So I really encourage you to check out the Surface Anthology membership. It's Sandy. Hey, Sandy. Sandy is Clever Cook Store. I love it. I am so glad you're joining me, Sandy. This is very cool. Remember, I'm streaming to Facebook and also to YouTube live, because a lot of people are on YouTube. I love YouTube and I love watching somebody live there. And there are people that just love Facebook. So I can do both those things. And speaking of that, I'm asked a lot, Jane, how do you do this where you have that little square up in the top and you have the overhead shot? So I created a resource page that I give you the link, and some of the links are affiliate links because so many people ask me. I don't affiliate for any company or product or anything that I don't use and love. And I've been like this my whole life. When I did hair, I didn't use products that I thought I could just sell. I used products that I absolutely loved and worked on my clients' hair. So if you go to surfaceanthology.com, just click on resources, and I have, all the things I used, like this app I'm using right now. I have a special kind of camera mount that I use so that I could do this. And then I just use my phone is on top and my iPad is what I'm looking at you at. So it's really cool. But I've got everything else there too. So just go to the resource page at surfaceanthology.com. And I think that's it for now. Now it just started absolutely pouring again. Oh, it's been brutal, I'm telling you. All right. Now to get on to our fabulous little Trumeau, our mini Trumeau mirror. So remember, I've been using this cutout. This is so here's the real transfer. And let's see if it's the same. Oh my God, I really waited to say. It's the same size. And I cut this out from the cover so I could kind of use it as, a little aid in when I was planning this mirror. And right now I am going to, hey Cheryl, thanks for joining. Cheryl's excited to see the finishing touch. Absolutely. You've all been very patient, right? But I am going to be putting the transfer on first, and then I'm going to work a little. It's very, very bright, my lovely gold leaf. So I'm going to just tone it down a bit, and then lastly, I'm going to mix up some wax, and I'm going to put the wax on today. And then I'm going to wait for the wax to dry before I get my razor, my straight razor, and clean off the little mirror. And then I promise I'll put pictures up of this little confection, right? That's what it's like to me. So first thing we have to do, I made sure that there's no dust or anything on our paint because I'm putting down a transfer. There are lots of different paint lines. A lot of people will put a coat of like a matte sealer down first. I've never done that. I also only use my transfers on top of like a pure chalk paint one that doesn't have a built-in top coat. And I've had good luck so far, knock on wood. Watch what happens now. Hopefully it's gonna work. But just make sure there's no dust or anything on there. That's why I'm not using my steel wool yet, because the steel wool, it's a really fine steel wool, could create little fragments and stuff, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna take my transfer sheet, and I've got the plastic is on the back. And I'm just gonna cut this out. Being careful not to ruin the beautiful Eiffel Tower next door. So I'm just gonna cut her out, move this away. Now, I like that it has this grid because, right, I am gonna have to cut this. I'm gonna cut this. And if you look here, this is the full transfer, right? But my piece of wood was too short. So I found a spot where I could have had her head kind of go underneath, but I didn't want to do that because part of Marie Antoinette is that giant hair, right? So I folded it here, and that's exactly where I want this to kind of end. And it is right about there. I'm gonna cut really close up here so I can see how far I can move her up. Right, so I put that down. And remember, the backing is on this because otherwise it would stick. And I'm just going to give myself a little, I'm burnishing it with my thumb. And that actually makes a little, see that line, that very faint line? And that's where I'm going to cut this. So right there. Okay. Put that aside. And look at how perfectly this fits, right? Time to put the transfer on. So I'm gonna lift this up. I've got my burnisher. Thanks to all of you that helped me figure out what that was called. And I'm gonna remove this and just put, and I'm eyeballing this. If you really were needing to have this dead center, you see how there's a line going kind of right between her eyes, down her nose? You could actually, you know, find your center point, measure, put a dot, and you could line it up that way. I tend to eyeball a lot of stuff, though when it really counts, I will measure, absolutely. So I'm gonna put that down. Looks good. Grab my burnisher, and here we go. Now, originally I wanted to do this really crackly, chippy kind of finish. And if any of you have taken my antique finish, paint finish course, you'll know what I'm talking about. And by the way, if you join the Surface Anthology membership, that course is included. That's a bonus for you guys. But I wanted to do a really chippy finish. I am not confident putting a transfer on top of a very kind of chippy old finish. And I got kind of nervous and I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. So I went in a different direction, and that's why I created this kind of, I'm calling it a rustic fade. And I love how it brings out the pink in her cheeks and her hands and, you know, her ears. They used to put blush on their ears. I just love all that stuff. All right. I'm not an organized burnisher. This looks good. Let's see. Find a spot. If I could lift this plastic up. And there she is. How beautiful, right? Thank goodness it worked. But look at that. And I really do love these pinks with the pink that comes out in her cheeks and lips and ears. And as I said, her hands. But for me, when I look at this, there's my cat. Walter, you're going to have to wait. He's in here with me. She's much more, can you guys hear my cat? She's not as bright and shiny. This is a very, kind of old illustration, an old engraving. And this is kind of showing her up, right? All of this brightness. So what I want to do, and I'm just going to take my plastic, and I do this just to make sure this is all down before I start working on this, toning down this gold leaf. I just want to make sure, and that is. I'm going to take some 000 steel wool. Oh, hey, Jessie. Oh, I'm so glad you guys like that. Isn't she? I mean, who could resist, right? And it's going to go in my sewing room. So I'm doing super feminine, very, very kind of, I think of petit fours and tea parties. I am the mother of 3 boys, and I never really did that. It might get too over the top for me, and then I could tone it back, but soon I'll be showing you. Right now I have got piles of fabric that I really need to go through. Okay, so you take your steel wool and you just hit the gold leaf. And you are going to create, you'll see it, little pieces of metal are breaking off. So have an old brush nearby so you could brush this away. If you are sensitive to dust, wear a mask. And I usually do when I'm doing something like this, because you don't want to breathe those in. And you can really, really knock down the gold leaf. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you like that beautiful brightness, you go with it, make it just the way you want. But you see what's happening here, right? I hope you could see it. There's the shiny gold, and here's the more toned down gold leaf. Jessie's saying, I'm the mother of 3 boys also. Oh, you've got 4 granddaughters. Oh, wow, that is so cool. I have 3 boys and 1 grandson, and I adore him. I love him, Mateo, and my 3 sons, Christopher, Alexander, and Marshall. But, I know someday, I do have a female dog. That's what I did, Jessie. I adopted Willow. She's this little cute chihuahua. And, she's my little girl, but oh my goodness, I bet you have fun buying their little outfits. And I know it's probably, there's some little girls that they're not into all the fluffy stuff. I was like that as a little girl. I loved tutus and ballet and all of that. And there's some little girls that are just, they're not into that. They're into being tomboys, sports. And I even hate saying tomboys. They just like different things. But I dream, I don't know why, about tiaras and tutus. Isn't that awful, Jessie? But that's wonderful. What a wonderful family. All right, I am going to continue working around, and I'm really not going to stand. You can actually see, I hope, the paint coming through. Girls are having, Jessie is saying, oh, that's so wonderful. How nice. And you've got quite the crew, 4 granddaughters. And it's so much fun being a grandparent, right? Oh, you know, you read those memes and stuff. You know, great thing about being a grandparent is you could give the kid whatever they want, sugar or whatever, and you get to send them home with their parents. Oh, but it's really nice. And my grandson certainly keeps me and my husband. He just adores his grandfather. He calls him Pop Pop, and I'm Gigi. But he keeps us on our toes. Now, what you do here, you have to do everywhere. You kind of want to keep a nice, consistent look so it looks like it equally aged all over. And that is what I'm doing. And even the areas where I kind of went over right there. See, it goes outside beyond the mold onto the board. I'm getting that also. And this is a really quick process. Run them right down. And don't do this with sandpaper, because if you do this with sandpaper, even the finest, it's going to go right through. The steel wool is the best. All right. And I can even, when I'm done with this, after I apply the wax, if I go back and look at it and it still looks too bright, I can go back even through the wax with the steel wool. So don't worry about that. Cheryl's saying, I have 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters, so we had to get a male dog. That's what happens, right? Absolutely. I have a male dog too. I've got 2 dogs, and I have a male cat who you guys heard meowing, and he's looking at me right now. He's really getting fed up. Right, Walter? But oh, so you're just surrounded by ladies, female energy, right? Oh, and Brody, how cute is that? We do what we have to do, right, ladies? All right. This is looking good. Okay, you see how that's getting toned down, but we still have that bright frame. And somebody asked about this also. This was from the frames mold. And they were asking, how did you get it? There isn't one like this. There is. It's actually a vertical mold, and it has like a little doohickey, right, that comes up, kind of a crown. I cut it off with an X-Acto blade, turned it horizontally, and glued it down. So that's how I did that. All right, let's just get this part, and then we can mix up the wax. Try not to hit your glass. You don't want to scratch it. So I'm just knocking this down. Okay. That, and just move your piece around like I'm doing. Look at it. Sometimes I'll turn something upside down. Just to get a little bit of a different perspective. All right. Now, the other thing you have to do, I have my old brush here that I'm going to use to brush away all the dust. And again, I really encourage you to put a mask on when you do this. And we're all used to wearing masks now. And it will keep these little fine particles from going into your lungs. All right, and we'll also have to brush this off before we put anything on it. So just brush this off and you'll see all those little particles just coming right off of it, and give it a smack. You could even take your vacuum cleaner, because with something this ornate, and there's all these little nooks and crannies for all these particles to hang out. That's why I'm giving it a smack. Okay. Now, much softer. I really love that, but it's still blingy, right? It's still blingy, and you can even wear away more. Absolutely. And if you feel like you wore away too much, it is not the end of the world. Grab your size and your leafing and just put on more gold leaf. This is really, really workable, these finishes. And the more you layer and the more you work on it, it actually looks more and more authentic, right? Because you're just building up layers, and blending them. So now it's time for wax. Move my coffee. Move all my stuff out of the way. And if you've been watching me for any time, you know I put my wax on a piece of cardboard. I'm using Miss Mustard Seed wax. I'm using the clear, which I love. It has this kind of a lemony, really clean scent. Not like a Pledge lemony scent, but a really nice one. And the beautiful antiquing wax. So I just grab, oh, let me go what I'm using again. When I'm working on my decorative wax finishes, I always use little natural bristle brushes. I don't use my big monster waxing brush, because that brush is meant to put on a smooth, beautiful, even veil of wax. When I'm working with different colors of wax, decorative waxes, I want to create texture. I want some striations. Sometimes I'll even go in with my scissors and cut the bristles so that I can lay down wax in a striae, right? Create texture. So that's why you'll see me using these kinds of brushes. All right. First wax I'm going to put down is the clear. We're going to do a clear slip coat. I always do a slip coat. Always, always, always. And I just put paint in my wax. I know Walter. Walter's like, oh, how could you do that? That's because I grabbed these tongue depressors. The reason I put a slip coat down is if I put too much of this beautiful antiquing wax down, I won't be able to pull it off of this paint. It's going to kind of get sucked in. It's going to stain the paint. So I want a slip coat, and that way I can control how the antiquing wax looks. All right, so let's put that on first. One last brush. Grab my brush, and I just emulsify the wax into the brush. All the waxes I use, they're beautiful, but you don't have to wipe them away. You put down I call it a veil of wax, and there's no wiping off excess. You just put it down, and then you let it dry. So get everywhere. Especially all the little nooks and crannies. Oh, Walter. And your paint will get a little bit darker. That's how you know you hit that area. And it will almost always lighten up to the original color. Now, when you're going around the glass, don't get any on the glass. It's not the end of the world, but it's a pain to get off the glass. So just kind of work around your frame. carefully. Oh, okay. Cheryl's asking about that slip coat. And she said, what does a slip coat do? Is that like a base coat? It is like a base coat of wax, but it truly is what I call it, a slip coat. It keeps, if I put this dark wax on just to the bare white paint, and a lot of paint companies will say, well, my paint won't suck in, the color of the wax. That has not been my experience. And I decide that again, if I put this on first and I put it down and I'm like, oh, that's just too much, I can't lift it off at all. It's stuck. If I put a slip coat of clear, which stops that chalk paint or any kind of a clay paint, anything, that porous paint from absorbing this dark wax or any other color wax you use, I can then manipulate that wax. So that's why I do it. I always do it. Unless I know I want to really make this white into a soft tan or a brown color, then I'll just use the wax. But I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I just like to play it safe, And I'm going right over Marie. And make sure you get all these edges. And nooks and crannies. All right. Looks good. So now, get that hair out of there. Let's mix up. I am not going to use straight antiquing wax. I'm going to move this over. So I've got my clear wax, and I'm just going to take a little bit of this antiquing wax. I love the Miss Mustard Seed because it's not like a really golden, super warm brown. And if you have a wax, a brown wax that is like that, all you have to do is add a little gray or a little blue, graphite, that kind of color. And I also keep a lot of pigments, dry pigments, to work into my waxes. And that's another thing that we go over in the Surface Anthology membership, and also the Antique Paint Finish course. I show you 2 ways to mix up a wax. I don't like to use it straight out of the jar for a lot of projects, just that color. I like to tweak it. I like to make it my own. And for you that are doing this as a business, that's a really great way to create your very own look that nobody else can replicate, right? You're not using things right out of the tube, that color. You're making your own palette. Oh, Walter. Now he's here. He might jump up, so get ready. All right, Cheryl, I'm glad I answered that, but let me know if you have any other questions. All I do now, usually I'll take my tongue depressor like this, add my brown, and I love, love, love doing this. And if you are working, again, you hear me say this over and over like a broken record, if you're working on a big, project, a custom piece, do a test, right? Make sure you like that color wax you created. And this looks good. I'm liking that, right? You see that big difference, how dark that is and what color this is. I might add just a touch more. And you don't need a lot. And again, when you're doing a big project, make sure you write down your recipe, and you could use your project printable for that. Okay, let's bring it back. The other thing I want to say, and Cheryl, this is important about the slip coat, I could let this slip coat dry. Like if I don't have time to do my decorative color wax, I can let this dry and go back, and it's still going to work as that slip coat. Okay, so it's still going to work, dry or, you know, wet like it is here. And I've got a rag. I've got my big old towel here because we're probably going to be wiping some of this away. All right, so I have my brush, dip it in. And if you do a project like this and you do need to test things, you could always paint the back, like paint it with your lightest color, and then you could test on the back and flip it over when you like what you have and apply it to the front. All right, and now we're gonna go in, and I am really laying this on. Pick it up and get into all the nooks and crannies. I'm gonna see how I'm kind of gingerly working my way around Marie. But you see the difference here, right? So there's with the antique wax, and there it is bare. So we're starting to build up, you know, just some age, some character to this finish, which I love. And don't forget the sides. And I'm just tapping it in. One of the mistakes I see people make is when they're using an antique wax, they don't get into all the nooks and crannies. So it doesn't make sense, right? It's they're aging something, but why wouldn't it have gone in? So make sure, that's why I kind of will work backwards. You know, I'll come along and go like this and work down. Because it's going to be darker, because those little areas are going to collect way more dust and dirt, you know, over the hundreds of years, right? And you can stipple if you want, you can brush. I do all this kind of stuff until I love what I see, and then I leave it to dry. And I'm doing half here so you could see. You gotta get right up in here. And let me just get half the bow. All right, so let me show you the two sides, right? So here's with the antiquing wax, the dark wax mixture, and there it is clean. And you could leave it absolutely clean. You don't have to do this. I want to just build up some age and character there. I'm going to do the other side now, and I'm going to show you how I kind of will work off some of this. Get in all the nooks and crannies. And I've even used like dry pigments and gone in and kind of dropped them in when this gets kind of 90% dry. That's a fun thing to do. All right. Now, and I will probably work on this just a tad more after I'm done with today's live. But here it is, right? Whole thing. I love it. But I want to just take away a little bit of this, plus that hair. So I can grab, I don't have a paper towel, but sometimes I'll have like one of those lint-free shop towels. So you just grab something and go over and pull away the wax. Keep turning your cloth from these high points. Right? And a lot comes off. Because again, so much of the dirt and grime is going to be in the nooks and crannies, not sitting on top. All right, and then you can go around, and I hope you can see that. I'm just kind of blotting away, right? So here's what I did there. I took away from the corners and the high point and left it in that molding there. You can really, really tweak this, you know. And sometimes I'll just use a clean brush and lift away some of the antiquing wax. And if you do have areas where it, if you can see that, like you get a little clot, I call it, like that little blob, just grab your brush, which I dropped. I'll use my clear brush, and just, I could do it all along here. You can just blend it right out so you don't have that clump of wax, right? And look at how beautiful that is. You get a really, really beautiful finish. And you can do another coat of antiquing wax when this is dry. You can do more of it, you know, when it's still wet like this. Like I could dip back in and kind of stipple it around if I wanted to. It's kind of this wonderful living finish, this evolving finish that you can keep working on. But for texture, you know, I did a lot of stippling. I don't really want to see brush strokes because you just wouldn't see those, you know, in an antique, if this was an antique. So I'm just kind of going around and using the end of my brush to stipple that wax finish. And it doesn't have to be super even, right? There it is. So we still have our beautiful gold, but it's more aged and it kind of goes along with more of the aesthetic of this transfer, I think. So I'm going to continue to kind of mess around with this a little bit. When I'm totally done, I will post some pictures, and I'm probably going to do a blog post too and go through the steps of what I did. So if any of you kind of missed the first 4 parts of this tutorial, it will be in a nice organized blog post so you can catch up and see what I did. It's just a fun little project, a way to test out different finishes, different paints, without going, you know, whole hog on something really big before you know what you're doing. So that's it. Cheryl, Jessie, Sandy, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, if you're interested in joining the Surface Anthology membership, my furniture painting, decorative painting membership, where we really deep dive into techniques, furniture, all of that good stuff. Go to surfaceanthology.com and just click on membership. Everyone, hey Linda, I am so glad you like it. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to continue to tweak it. When the wax is totally dry, that's when you go to clean your glass. Don't mess around with it until it's absolutely dry. I will let this, once I'm done, let it dry for 24 hours. Then I'm going to hit that with a razor blade. Thank you for joining me. I will see everyone again here on Wednesday. I might pop on tomorrow with my latest find. I went antiquing. My husband and I went antiquing, thrifting last weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before. And I got the most beautiful piece of bisque. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll show you for an unbelievable price. And I'm really excited about it. So I want to show you guys. All right, everybody. Happy Monday. Have a wonderful day. Any questions, ask in the comments and I will answer them. And happy painting, you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.